Welcome back to another edition of the Gabagools Podcast. I'm your host, Jeff. This is episode 17, and with me as always, the cuzzo, Dan. How we doing?
I got my spirit fingers coming out here for 17. We're doing lovely today. Tell you what, starting off with the weather again, way too hot. I don't love it. We got a heat wave coming in here. If you're in the Midwest, tell you right now, keep the AC on. Stay indoors if you can, all right? My job's outdoors. I don't really have a choice. But if you can, keep your ass inside. It's going to be 90 for a week. I don't know about you, but this gringo does not do well in 90s.
No, nor do I, or humidity at that matter. So, yeah, too hot to walk the dogs, too hot to take, the kids to the kid to the park. You just melt in this weather. So yeah, it's one of those quick, hey dogs, go out potty real quick. Take you out on the leash and we're going. This is the perfect time to sit inside and catch up on some sports. That being said, NBA Finals. I thought the Celtics were going to close it out. They are up 3-1. They lost Game 4 pretty significantly. Let's preference that. They got their asses kicked is the best way to put it.
Yep.
It's bound to happen. 7-game series for a reason. Not really jumping too far ahead. I do think the Celtics close it out in Boston tonight. I don't think they took a day off just to win it in Boston, like people keep saying. But I think the writing is on the wall. The Celtics are going to walk away with it. But for those gamblers out there, that plus 215 odds right now for the Mavericks is looking awfully dangerous. And I'm like debating if I dip my toe in there just for fun. But then I was also thinking like, hey, do I just, take the favorite and take the Celtics?
You could dip a toe, right? Just dip a toe. Don't get crazy with that, though. I think I agree with you on that, too. I don't think the Celtics have lost more than one game in any of these series in the playoffs.
Yep.
I could be wrong on that, but
I think you're right.
they've been either sweeping them or they've lost like one game to a handful of teams. So, yeah, I mean, they look great. I was hoping this would be a bit of a better series, but when you drop the first three, I mean, the writing, like you said, it's on the wall. So it was interesting, though, to see Dallas come out and spank Boston. I mean, they came out from the start. They said, all right, we're not letting you sweep us. We're at least taking the game. Okay, sure. It's cute. They got a game. But, Boston just had that energy of, like, the series is over, whether we're up 3-0. It's like,
Did you not to ruin your point here, but did you also notice that the Mavericks didn't do any shoot-arounds for like 2 days, and then even 4 hours before the game, the only one to take any shots was Kyrie?
Now that I did not notice, but maybe that was a good thing for him, huh?
I mean, I don't know. Basketball is one of those weird sports, if you've ever played it, where you have the feel or you don't. Like, that's all there is to it. You're either hot or you're not. These are all elite players that can make shots, but whatever works, I guess we'll get to see, what happens with the rest of that series. But let me see if I could pull that exact, what did they win by? So it was 122-84. They won. Tatum only scored 15 points. Luka scored 29. Dirk Lively was big on the boards. He had 12 rebounds, and then Kyrie was kind of just like all over the place in the series too, or that game, and he put up 21 points. So he's been hotter of recent, and that's kind of leading to my next point too, is that Luka and Kyrie kind of need to keep this momentum going if they want another chance at this championship. And I would love, because I think Kyrie is not, I think he's 1 for 15 against the Celtics since he left Boston. So, it's one of those things that, we'll see what happens.
Yeah, if that's the record, 1-15 since he left the Celtics, probably not ideal for him. But yeah, I mean, you know what? He's got to have his game. I like how he's been getting some rebounds, some assists. He's been trying to do a little bit of everything, but he's going back to Boston for Game 5. He needs to put his foot down, and he needs to have a game.
Last two he's had pretty decent ones at least. So
the other stats are nice, but I want to see him, 30 to 40 or more. He's got to go off, and Luka needs to, he's been kind of putting in his work as he does with the, pretty much every game, but Luka needs that second guy for sure. And if Kyrie can put up those bigger numbers, maybe get something, another nice game out of PJ. He's been nice. Lively. if he keeps it up. I mean, they have a nice team, but I didn't expect them to go down 3-0, to be honest with you. I thought Dallas could at least take one of the first 3 games.
Right, and that's kind of
But
like
Boston has just kind of been that team all year, I guess, right? They've been, the best team in the NBA all year. You could say that they had maybe an easier run through the playoffs, but they took care of every team, right? Like I said, I don't know if they lost 2 games in any series. So they've just been sweeping you or beating you 4-1, and it's just been that type of run for them. So they're expected to win. They've looked great the whole playoffs, and I expect them to probably win Game 5 as well and just wrap it up.
yeah, and like we said too earlier, they won by 38 points, which is just insane. The third largest margin in any NBA Finals game. So Boston did trail by 48, which at that point they just gave up. But that being said, we can touch on the NHL just to kind of Well, no, let's give out. We have to shout out our guy Charles Barkley first, with him retiring at the end of I think next season. Regardless of that TNT deal, which we're not going to get into deeply, but we're going to miss seeing Barkley out there. He's been doing it a long time too.
They've had a lot of clips of him and the guys on social media the last month or so, because obviously we know now that everything's going to change a little bit with that. And he's got the San Antonio clip where he's talking about the San Antonio women. I mean, I think that's got to be my favorite one. I mean,
just the way he just went off unhinged too on it is just insane.
And then he starts talking about the churros and he's wolfing them down with the 2 hands and. Yeah. But you know what, Charles? You got one more year. He'll have his swan song next year, I'm sure, and then we'll get some more young blood in there, as they say.
Exactly. We'll get new. Well, who knows? Who knows with the state of that? Yeah. Moving on to the NHL playoffs, kind of similar. So in Stanley Cup, I should call it. Kind of similar games too, like where just beatdowns across the entire series, where the Panthers have been up. They were up 3-0 going in the closeout game in Game 4, and the Oilers came out and spanked them 8-1. McDavid got going finally, and that was kind of a surprise too, that the series has just been such an ass kicking on both leagues. So it's like one of those like things you get so excited for these finals, and then they end up kind of disappointing with how it's been. They play tomorrow night at 7. Bringing back the NBA real quick too, is that they play tonight at 7:30 Central. So we'll find out if we have a new NBA Finals champion. But like I said, Oilers stormed back in Game 4, won 8-1. McDavid actually broke Wayne Gretzky's record for most assists in a postseason, which was posted 31 assists previously in 1988.
Wow.
And as I've mentioned before, Connor McDavid's the best player that just needs to win, get that monkey off his back as well. So we'll see what they do tomorrow. I'd like to see it go 7 just for, all time sake. So
what's that series at? That's 3-1 too?
Yeah.
Yeah. Looks like
you
those
space
Florida
all these
Panthers
games out. You space them all out, and they end up, in this type of situation. But we'll see.
Right.
Officiating and everything seems to do that.
Very true.
All right. And then last week, some big news in the NFL we'll touch on real quickly is Trevor Lawrence signed that 5-year, $275 million contract with the Jacksonville Jaguars, including a $37,000 signing bonus and $200 million guaranteed. I brought this on our notes just because I was kind of surprised that he's getting as much as Burrow with doing significantly less. I mean, maybe
I think everyone's surprised.
Yeah. You want to lock him down so you don't have any controversy. You just go into the season, you have your QB, and I guess you roll it out. And then realistically, if these guys get fired after, I think he does have an opt-out or a dead cap of 110. I'll have to check to see exactly when his opt-out is. But when you look at all these QBs that are getting paid, it's one of those situations where it's like everybody's just getting like huge numbers, and I'm going to share my screen here just to reference it a little bit deeper. So if you had to ask yourself who's getting paid the most, it should be an easy question with Patrick Mahomes, right? So you have Patrick Mahomes here
You would
at
assume.
yeah, you would assume, and he is still getting the most with 10 years for 450 million. He's averaging only 45 per year. But if you go back to other great QBs such as Tom Brady, did similar situations, took team friendly deals. So we'll see. We'll see what ends up happening with this QB market. And the reason that I'm like bringing this up that he tied Burrow, he's getting the same as he's getting more than Justin Herbert, who I would say is better. Lamar Jackson, granted, he's a little bit older now than T-Law is when he signed. Josh Allen, Jalen Hurts, Kyler Murray, Deshaun Watson, and then Jared Goff is on that list too, which is still insane to me. I like Jared Goff. I think he's a decent QB. I think there's a reason that Sean McVay and company moved on from him. They realized you could get him there, but he won't win. He's not Stafford. But the guy next on this list is Dak Prescott. He's up for a new contract after this year. And one of the big problems with that is he's going to want $60 million now. You know what I mean? So when you look at the state of the league, state of the Cowboys currently, what do you do in this situation? Do you sign him long term? Do you go out and try to find a new QB?
60 million. I mean, if you were to ask me this even now, 60 million is like almost unfathomable to me. I mean, when Ohtani got that contract, everybody was saying, "Oh, it's 70 million a year," but then it's all deferred. So technically, the guy's making like $2 million a year every year, and then when he's not playing, he's going to be making his 68 or whatever a year. But to pay someone, I know they're different sports, but I'm sure, like almost everyone else, when we saw that news of him getting that massive deal, I mean, my eyes literally almost popped out of my. We're going to get on the ticker count here. My fucking head. Okay, this guy. I like Trevor Lawrence. My dad's been a huge fan of his. But what has he done? They had a comparison. I just saw this. I think it might have been yesterday. It was just a clip of it. It was like maybe a minute. This guy on one of these shows, I forget his name, bald guy. He had two quarterbacks' numbers compared through their first, I think, 48 games.
I know where you're going with it. Yep.
The Daniel Jones comparison, right? I mean, and Daniel Jones should not be getting paid $40 million a year, right? I think he's at 40, and now you've got Trevor at 55. So just looking at the numbers alone without knowing either of the two quarterbacks, you're like, God, this guy's getting 15 more a year than him. I like Trevor Lawrence. Daniel Jones has had one above average year. It was a good year that 1 year. I don't want to say how good it was, but yeah, Trevor Lawrence has done almost nothing. I mean, they got to the playoffs once, maybe twice.
I think it's been at least once. I know because they went against Mahomes, and that's when Mahomes got hurt. They made the playoff, and I think that was the same year they They came back at halftime and beat the Chargers as well. I mean, he's made the playoffs. The problem is that he is underwhelming for what he's been doing. Now, is he a great quarterback? Great might be even pushing it. I think he's a good quarterback. I think he has unlimited potential, and he could be like one of the next top, QBs as he was projected to be. But it'll be interesting to see after this year where he gets projected and with what, with what any of these other guys on this list look like too. Like a lot of these contracts are going to look really bad soon. But the other problem, and here's where I'm going to play devil's advocate with you, is like Dak Prescott too. Like we'll bring him up again. He's due up for that. 60 million would be a lot, and that's probably the asking price. Who would be the other option? If you don't sign him to that, you have to start back from the well. And Cowboys, you don't do that, And I'd say Jerry Jones would have to fire himself, but he'll never do it. But do you go into that pool? Like this next draft class isn't very good at QB, so you would have to trade up because they're still too good of a team to fall in that top 10 range where you can have draft a top option, like Caleb Williams, so on and so forth. A lot of these options, too, on this list are in those top 10 range. I mean, a couple of them are the outliers, but a majority, overwhelmingly, have gone in the top 10 to top 15 picks. Would you sign Dak long term, or would you?
I like Dak. He falls in that same category kind of with Trevor. Well, similarly, I mean, Dak's had some big years. He's thrown some picks. I like Dak, but I also don't love Dak, and that's the issue. It's like, to pay someone top dollar when you don't love them is got to be tough. But like you said, if you don't do that, you're going back to the well, and you've got to, just like you said. I mean, you hit the nail on the head right there. Dallas is obviously too good of a team to have that good of a pick. So you'd have to move up. You'd have to do a lot of, the voodoo that you do. But I don't. I would assume you pay him. And is it going to be 60? I would be hesitant to say it's 60. But then again, Lawrence just got 55. So I could see him potentially getting that, but these guys are overpaid. It is unbelievable. You could say that the market is dictating that, it keeps going up. Mahomes a couple years ago got his $450 million contract. And, you could talk about the market all you want. But at some point or another, you also have to talk about the fact that Mahomes is the pride of the league, right? And there should be a significant difference. And 450 to 275 is, but man, to pay Lawrence 55 a year, I mean, that's a lot. If you're asking me, I wouldn't pay him that much. I know that that's kind of right around where he would be making, but I wouldn't. If I had the option, I wouldn't pay him 55 a year.
I think there's a yeah, and that's fair. I would. I think people are like overcritical on Dak. I don't think he's actually done anything wrong. Like, how a lot of the criticism goes against these quarterbacks. Like, do you perform in the playoffs? Kirk Cousins and a lot of these players, they don't. When you look at players like Dak, he didn't do anything wrong, and he hasn't been the issue. He's been an MVP candidate a lot of these years as well. So it's hard to place a lot of the blame on him. Your running game has been non-existent for the last pretty much since Zeke left. You go through Dak's stats. I mean, he led the league last year in touchdown passes with 36. And over the last, probably since 2020, he got hurt. When he bounced back in 2021, he had 37 touchdowns. 2022 took a little dip in 23, but he only played 12 games. I guess your criticism could be that he did throw a lot of interceptions in these last couple of years, except for last year where he only had 9. And the QBR was second in the league with 72.7. So, I think you pay him. I don't think unless you try to hit on another 4th round QB, which that's iffy. And they didn't draft it. So you better hope that Trey Lance turns into something. But I digress a little bit. Anything else you want to touch on with the state of the NFL?
A lot of money. I should have played. I should have got out there.
What, the jockstrap boy or water boy?
Hey, you know what? If Trevor Lawrence is getting $55 million a year, the water boy's got to be getting $250, $500K at least. He's got.
I was thinking $250 a game, maybe.
No, it's got to be more than that. I mean, what is he doing? He's bringing the water to these guys. That's worth a little bit more than that.
I'm assuming they're all like dietitians or hydration specialists or something. Well, we're gonna have to fact check that one and find out, are they just like literally going over squirting water in people's mouths, or is there like a logic behind it? So will be interesting to look up. But
we'll get back to you next week.
Yeah, next week. That'll be that's on Dan's notes. You got your notebook. Write that down and find out. Like, do you have to be a dietitian or athletic trainer too? I was thinking it might be that. But
what does a water boy do?
Well, we know what a water boy does. We just got to make sure if they're, you got to be more broad about the question, or less broad about the question. Be like, are they like a dietitian?
Oh, I'm writing my notes here. I got some good stuff. I got a few people I'm going to talk to about this too. So now I'm excited.
Oh, perfect. We got Who Wants to Be a Millionaire? Going to phone a friend. All right, moving into our bread and butter with baseball. Leading it off, Mookie Betts fractured his hand. He won't have surgery, and Yamamoto is also hurt for everyone's favorite Dodgers.
I I don't wish anyone to get hurt, but I don't love the Dodgers with all the money they've spent, and they're trying to do this whole fucking super team tally. So, um, yeah, Mookie, man, he was having a great year too. Feel bad for him.
MVP. Yeah.
Yeah, he and Yamamoto. I don't know if I had heard what happened with him. Do you know
They were,
anything or no?
they were saying it was a triceps injury, but they came out and said it had something to do with his rotator cuff. I don't think they're
Mm.
overly concerned about it right now. He's just going on the IL, so we'll see what ends up happening with that. But if he's out, yikes. That's going to
How about
be.
another Dodger pitcher on the IL? And you know, here's the best part about that. Who is their pitching coach? Isn't it Mark Pryor? Isn't he still over there? How
That's
the
true.
hell is Mark Pryor the pitching coach over there? How does he still have a job when year in and year out all their pitchers are fucking hurt? Dustin May had another Tommy John. Walker Buehler just came back. Kershaw's hurt again because he's hurt every year now. You've got Gonsolin who's out. You've got
I mean,
Bobby Miller.
is that the pitching coach's fault though that they're getting hurt? I
Coming
feel
from a
like
Cubs fan and who had high expectations for Mark Pryor back in the day, you know what? You can blame that on whoever you want. But
I mean, it sounds like a lot of excuses. Bartman, Moises Alou, Mark Pryor throwing it into the dugout. What was his name? Alex Gonzalez, the shortstop, right? A couple balls through the legs. A
no, keep
whole
it going.
additional game being played. Let's see, rain delay. I mean, no, we're not going to get into rain delays, but
No,
yeah,
keep it going.
yeah. I mean, we have a lot of. We can keep going, but yeah. Anyway,
Yeah. What were we just saying?
oh, we were just talking about the Dodgers. I love how I got
Oh
you with
yeah,
that one too.
you frazzled me on that one.
I did.
I didn't
No,
want to. I didn't want to jump into the Sox record again this year because I
I
don't
don't
even know
care
if you
about the
guys are at
Sox
20
record. I
games yet.
expected them to be bad. That's fine. You can
Well,
talk all. I probably hate them more than you do, so that's perfectly fine.
well.
But no, Dodgers. That's unfortunate that we have two superstars getting hurt. I don't think it's going to change their outlook. I mean, I think the Giants and well, I don't even know where the Diamondbacks are at this point, but Padres, someone might catch them in a couple games, but nothing like they're not going to win. Still have Freddie Freeman, Otani, and the Dodger luck, and we'll see what happens with them. They did just play against one of the most elite young players I've ever seen play recently. Is Bobby Witt Jr. He's hitting 327. He's got 11 homers, 51 RBIs, and 928 OPS. You might be like, oh, well, that's not really too crazy. Yeah, he's in top 10 in three of those categories, but he's playing on the Royals. So let's go full circle with that one.
And I'm glad you brought up the Royals because, well, first of all, Bobby Witt, that dude's freaking unbelievable.
Junior too.
Junior, yeah. He, boy, did they hit on that one. I mean, when you're a team like Kansas City, usually, I mean, obviously they won a few years ago, 10 years ago, 12, whatever it was.
Yeah.
And good for them. But then after they won, they went right back down, and they've been down for a while now. So good for them that they struck gold with this kid. They just locked him up long term. I forget what the dollars were. It was at least in the twos, or I don't know if it was $300 million, but they paid.
Yeah.
They might have. He's still so young. The things he's doing. Last year, obviously, he broke out when we were like, okay, if this is how he's going to be for the next decade or so, yeah, you got to lock him up. And now seeing what he's been doing this year, he's built off of it. He's got the confidence. That kid's unbelievable. And just getting into the baseball now, I wanted to talk about the best records because I haven't really been keeping up with some of the records and stuff like that. You've got three teams from the National League who have some solid records, but it's mainly the American League that I'm interested in because in the American League, you've got the Yankees in Baltimore who are at the top. And other than that, the East is, I mean, you're basically done with everybody else in that division. Yankees are 50-24, Baltimore's 47-24. So those two are just by far the class. Seattle in the West has an 8.5 game lead over Texas. Did not know that, and their record isn't even that good. They're 43-31. They're 12 over. It's good,
Right.
but What I really wanted to get at was the AL Central. I think we talked about the AL Central being maybe one of, if not the worst divisions in baseball. At
Yeah,
least when we projected it this
we
year.
did. We did.
It might be the best division in baseball right now. If you go by the records, you gotta look at some of the other divisions. Cleveland is 44-25. They have been quite the surprise this year with how good they've been. Kansas City, like you said, they're 41-32, and Minnesota is 40-32. You've got three teams in that division with 40 wins or more, and they're all close and they're all playing well. I mean, Cleveland has. Everyone's talking about Aaron Judge and some of those other top guys. Jose Ramirez is unfucking believable. Okay, I'm tell you that one.
We're up 4.
You know what?
Gotta go into the camera with that one. Sorry, I was doing off to the side here. We got 4.
We're actually going to go 5 because Jose Ramirez is unfucking believable. All right, he's unreal. This dude, the last couple years, he's been right up there with like the MVP consideration. And when you've got guys like Aaron Judge who are hitting 50 to 60 homers, they're going to get the glitz and the glamour. But man, this guy posts every single day, switch hitter, will steal you 20 or 30 bags, plays a really good defense. Yeah. There's nothing he doesn't do well. And he's leading this team with a new manager, Stephen Vogt over there. Didn't know how he was going to be. Tito was there for the last decade or so. And, it seemed like they were always in contention with him. I was worried with Vogt taking over.
Do you know where Tito originated from, or where he came out of the AAA at least?
Was it Cleveland?
No, it was with the White Sox. Actually, I think he was the manager when Michael Jordan was playing. So we're talking like years and years ago. Yeah,
yeah.
Like before Boston, before like all those the Sox let him go, and that was one of the many. I don't know if we say many. He's the only one that comes to mind off the top of my head. That was like homegrown. We let him just like walk.
Well, that's always a good idea. But
yeah, go back to your point though about Jose Ramirez being elite. He's so much fun to watch too. He is huge too. For playing third base, he moves so well for how big he is.
Yeah, he a couple years ago when they had Lindor over there, he was the guy, and Jose was kind of like second fiddle. They had a couple other guys. Their offense wasn't great, but it was basically those two. And ever since Lindor left, J-Ram has become not only the guy. I mean, Lindor has been a shadow of himself with the Mets. He has not been that good. And Ramirez he's just rose to this elite level where if we didn't have a guy like Aaron Judge playing in the American League, and now Soto's over there too on the same team. But man, I mean, if Judge wasn't in the American League, you're talking about a legit MVP candidate multiple years in a row potentially. This guy, I mean, every time he plays, it's just, what is he going to do today? He's unbelievable.
Yeah, and I think his one criticism that you could say about him is that the fact that he doesn't hit – I mean, he hits home runs, but he will never be the guy who's leading the charge. There's too many other guys. I mean, look at Gunnar Henderson.
Yeah.
He's
another one. Yep. Oh, my God.
And then just the average, he bats like 260 to 280 usually year in and year out, which is good. It's good production, but he's also playing on a garbage team usually that doesn't score a lot of runs, at least in the last couple of years. But yeah, you're right. You have to give Jose Ramirez his flowers on that one.
Since you just brought him up, I have to ask this question because I've been asking people about a couple of these guys: Bobby Witt or Gunnar Henderson.
That's tough. I mean, I'm going to pick Bobby Witt because I have him on my dynasty team now. So,
God, man,
I love Gunnar though. I love Gunnar. I've been trying to trade for him too. And actually,
he hits lefties
in our keeper league. I had him before I had Holiday, and I either dropped him when he was cold last year, like when he had that ice cold streak. And you know me, I go after the championships. That you can't sit on my bench with that. So, I cut him, and of course he blows up right after it. So. So that one hurts a little bit, but wouldn't be the first one. I did that with Soto too. I had Soto when he first, talking fantasy for a minute here. I had also had Juan Soto originally when he came up. Like I think he skipped AAA altogether and came right from AA. And I remember looking at the prospect list, and I'm like, okay, this guy's not. Victor Robles was ahead of him. Like a lot of those guys that aren't really that good anymore. They were ahead of him on the depth. I'm like, okay, this guy must be something. So speculative ad. You just pick him up, 15th round keeper. Traded him away because I'm like, I'm trying to win. I don't think I won that year, but still, had to go back full circle and pay the piper for. I think I traded Strider for him. So.
Ooh. Well, you can't win them all, can you?
Oh, it's fine. I have Soto and 2 championships because of it. So I'm perfectly fine. 9-2, also, by the way. We did lose 2 weeks ago, but you know what? Can't win them all, and we don't care about regular season championships. We care about the number one at the end. So
that train is rolling, man. I'm waiting. I keep waiting for you to lose, and
I lost. I did lose 2 weeks ago.
I think we played each other a couple of weeks ago. It wasn't bad, but I think you pulled away late in the match.
Usually how it happens. But getting back on track, no more fantasy talk for this pod. Bobby Witt, elite. And to answer your question, yeah, I would have to take Bobby Witt just knowing his status. Better team would be Gunner, so you could make that argument. But yeah, so that's Bobby Witt. Who would you pick?
I'm like so torn with that one. I'd have to look and see how many bags Gunner takes, especially if we're talking just fantasy wise. I think they both are hitting right around the same. I'd have to look at Gunner's numbers too. I think he's hitting right around 300 or probably more than that. I mean, I know he's been on a tear. He was right up there. He's got like 15 to 20 bombs, I think. I mean, he's been
batting 274, 22 homers, 49 RBIs, 957 OPS. So very
so the
similar.
average dipped a few points, but yeah, very similar. Yeah, I mean, maybe Witt, but there's something about Gunner when I've seen him. I like that kid.
Like I said, if I could root for another team in the AL, it would be the Orioles, just based off of what they've done with their farm system and how many guys are still coming up.
I mean, how do you hit on every guy? I mean, they've hit on like every.
That being said, they're so funny because they never play these guys. Hurston Kerstead, who was like leading all AAA in home runs, RBIs, everything, right? Was on the Orioles, got called up, and didn't play for 3 weeks. Jackson Holiday, similar story, played, was terrible, got benched for like a week, and then they sent him down. So who knows what they're doing there. So we'll see. Moving on, Abreu got cut. Did you see that?
I thought I saw that, man, because they sent him down to AAA a couple weeks ago, and it obviously just wasn't. He's still lost, apparently.
Yeah, and I mean, he's 37, probably like 40 years old, after eating his.
Could be 50 for all we know.
Could be. He'd be look good for 50, but anyway, yeah, that's one of those moves. I think the Astros know they're not making the playoffs this year, or if they do, it would be they have to have something. I think Bregman gets traded. That's one of my like dark horse trade people. I could see that because they're they're 7 games back out of the wild card, so nobody's touching the Orioles. That being said, some of the other guys on the trade block, Eric Fetty from the White Sox, Luis Robert from the White Sox, and then Pete Alonso was another big one I named off too. It would be interesting to see if the Cubs trade for him to kind of add that spark to first base.
We've heard the rumblings. I mean, I've heard rumors. I don't know if there was
2
any.
years.
I don't know if there was any truth behind that. And I really like the polar bear. I just don't love all the swing and miss and the low average he's had in the last couple of years. And that's the other issue too, is he's going to get paid. But man, I mean, he's right up there at the top with home runs every year. So he's gonna provide. There's gonna be a lot of production in that bat, but you're gonna get a lot of swing and miss. And I mean, if he was still hitting 250, 260 or higher, that'd be one thing. But the last couple of years, he's been closer to like 220. And that's closer to, a guy you used to have who I loved was Adam Dunn.
Oh,
he'd have that low average. I mean, he for a while there, especially before he got to you guys, he was closer to 250 every year. But man, in his heyday, that dude missed being a Hall of Famer, in my opinion, by like a solid year or two. He finished with close to 450 career homers. If he got to 5, I know the career average would have been low. He would have probably had the most strikeouts of any Hall of Famer ever. But you get to 500 home runs, that's one of those benchmarks that people talk about. And I think he finished with like 440 or something. I mean, 444. I don't know.
He finished with 462.
Whoa, even better.
He had 41 home runs, so he led the league in strikeouts multiple seasons.
Easily.
But batting 204 for the White Sox in 2012, he hit 41 home runs, 105 walks, and 222 strikeouts.
Boy.
I would like to go to that year and just see while we're talking and just see like what the point differentials were just like across the board. Like that's awful.
That was Adam Dunn for you. Big fan of his though. Loved Adam Dunn back in the day, especially when he was on Cincinnati. I mean, he was a killer.
Yeah, he was. All right. Just another fun stat for the White Sox since we have them up. The White Sox starters are 12-31 this year. Eric Fetty and Garrett Crochet are 10-6. Everyone else is 2-25, and those other two wins are from Chris Flexen. So,
wow. So you have 3 guys who have gotten you a win as a starting pitcher this year. Wow, that's
yeah. Now I guess it's better than blowing games late. Oh wait, we do that too.
You guys find a way to lose games just about every way you can.
Yeah. Anything on the Cubs you want to touch on?
Not much. They're terrible. We're almost. If we keep playing this way, it's gonna be 1-2 with Chicago sports baseball teams this year. But still waiting for us to make our run. I think we've got another run in us, but we'll see. I mean, we're still not that far back. We're only like 8.5, I think, out of first. So, I mean, that's not terrible. I mean, you look at Miami, I think they're like 24 games. They could pack up now and just not even show up for the rest of their games. There's no reason. They're not making anything. So we still have a chance, but, man, we've got to get moving sooner or later.
Yeah, running out of time.
Running out of time for sure. But I guess silver lining, we're playing San Fran today. The guy we're facing, I don't love. We've got Jordan Hicks today, who's 4-3 with a 3.01. He's been quite the surprise as a starter this year. But we've got one of our guys I like, Javier Assad. I call him Assad because that's how you spell it. He's 4-2 with a 2.81. Well, gotta throw that in there. But I love Javi. He's great. So that's a good pitching matchup. 2 other pitching matchups around the league today. Reese Olson for Detroit, 1-8 with a 3.68. How about that? 1-8 with a 3.6. I mean,
I guess AJ Hinge isn't the end all be all manager that everybody was pissing and moaning about when the Sox hired La Russa instead. But we'll save that for another one.
We'll save that because I mean, man, everybody was high on them, and they've already sunk a little bit. But 1-8 with a 3.6 against my buddy Max Fried. I call him Max Fried. He's 6-3 with a 3.2, so he's good. And then we've got one other sort of intriguing matchup of the day: the Mets and the Rangers. Peterson's 2-0 with a 4.3. Okay, but my buddy John Gray, 2-2 with a 2.17 is going.
There you go.
So that's pretty much all I've got on the MLB. Hopefully the Cubs can start winning some fucking games here.
Yeah, you left out Braxton Garrett going against Sonny Gray tonight too, or did you mention that?
No, I mentioned John. I had John Gray on there. Sonny Gray, I like.
I just wanted to make sure. I was like, I think we messed it, but no. Braxton Garrett has the potential to be good. It's just he's going against Sonny Gray tonight, so that's a tough matchup. But
what's his numbers on the year? What isn't he? Doesn't he have like Braxton? A 6 ERA? Yeah.
Oh, it's been not great. His on the year. I'm trying to pull it up. He's 2-2 with a 6.10 ERA.
Yeah.
Oh my God, his WHIP is 1.258.
Well, there you go. Shit.
Yeah. Well, he had like one good start this year, and it was like he went like 9 innings. But
he's just on a bad team.
Yeah. Yeah. It's another toilet bowl. It should be interesting. We might have an NBA Finals champion tonight, so. Hopefully the Sox don't make too much of a fool of themselves. Andrew Vaughn has been hitting better, if you've noticed that.
I did see that he's available in one or two of my other leagues, and I was actually thinking about taking a flyer on him because he's been hitting like 360 the last, I think this month or the last couple of
Yep.
weeks. So he's been hot. The numbers on the year still aren't great, but they're not bad.
No.
So, and he's another guy too. No one's really talking about Andrew Vaughn. I think he's still only 25 or 26. He's not.
Yep.
He's still not even really in his prime yet. So that's a guy where if he gets going, that's another guy you guys can either build around, or if he stays this hot by the deadline or whatever, that's another guy you could potentially move. And if he stays this hot, you move him to a contender. You could get a nice piece or two back for him, along with, Fetty, who's been pitching great for you. And then if you move Robert, you're going to get the King's ransom most likely for him. So,
yeah, we'll see. We'll see what happens this week, and hopefully nobody gets traded. That actually means something to me, but they deserve to get traded out of this dump. So
trade them all.
Trade them all. Just like Game of Thrones, House of Dragon returned last night. Burn them all.
Burn them all. Is that what happened?
Well, it didn't happen, but that's if you've watched Game of Thrones at all.
So I have not seen GOT. I'm probably one of the only people that's been under a rock for the last 10 years. But, yeah, I did hear that new show or whatever came back with your little fairies and dragons.
It's the dragons. There's no fairies. Thank you very much. All right. We'll close it out there. If you don't like us by now, I don't know why you're still listening, but we appreciate when you do. Take us away.
Burn them all! Burn them all!